Hi, my name is Arif Akil. I'm a coach and master trainer of the GTD methodology. Has it ever happened to you that say you're in a meeting and while you're in a meeting you're reminded of something you need to do, say a call you need to make but can't make the call right away because you're stuck in a meeting and it'll be a while before you'll be done? So then you tell yourself you'll do it later. Before you know it, you're driving home, and as you're driving home you're then reminded of a call that you need to do. Once again, you can't make the call then. So then you tell yourself that you'll do it later. And as it's end of the day, you are then reminded of the call you need to make that you didn't make. But it's too late to make the call then. And it's not just the call, but you're reminded of all the things that you said you could do, but you haven't moved forward on. The emails that you need to send, the conversations that you need to have, the WhatsApp messages that you need to reply to. You're reminded of it all. You just sigh and you said you'll do it all tomorrow. You shrug and you toss and turn and sleep with whatever little sleep that you can get. Has that ever happened to you? If it has, why does it happen? It happens because your mind is the most amazing creative tool to have these ideas, but it's certainly not the best to hold on to them. And I hope you go back with this fundamental truth that your mind is for having ideas, not for holding them. So what do you use to hold these ideas? If you don't want that experience to ever happen again, going forward, anything and everything that has your attention, go ahead and write it down. And that's the first step of GTD, which is capture. Of course, that begs the question then, where do you write down? What are the tools that you use? And the tools are not so important. You can use a paper-based tool or a digital tool. But here are some best practices for the tools to use. Number one, use whichever tool that you have with you, the tool that you carry with you all the time. So if you're in the habit of carrying a notebook, a diary with you all the time, so go ahead and write it down there. If there's one particular app that you already use to write stuff down, go ahead and write it down there. Whichever tool you use, make sure that you're able to write in it fast. It should take you 5 seconds or less to get stuff out of your head and into the tool. Have as minimum resistance as possible. Finally, ensure that you have as few tools as possible and you're not writing all over the place. It's not that you're writing in your app and then sometimes you're writing in your notebook, sometimes you're putting a sticky note, sometimes you're writing in on your bathroom mirror. No, have as few tools as possible. In fact, even within the tool, have as few places as possible that you write it down. Have one place only if you can. So for example, if you're using an app, I frequently see people write it in multiple places within the same app. They have a separate list for personal stuff, for professional, for things they need to discuss with someone, for things they need to buy at the store. No, have one place where you put everything down. It may seem counterintuitive now, but we will organize and segregate this later. But for now, you have to make sure that it's out of your head and there is as little resistance as possible from when it's in your head and that it's out. And one way to do that is that you have it in one place and one place only. And to help you get it all out of your head, there's this landmark exercise that we do that is called the mind sweep. I hope you will do this exercise. Grab a sheet of paper. Go ahead and write mind sweep big and bold across the top. Start writing stuff that you have your attention on, big or small, personal or professional, doesn't matter. As long as it's in your head, go ahead and write it down. Even if it is in some other list somewhere, but it's still on your head, go ahead and write it down. This exercise may take 5, 10, 15 minutes, even longer. The more you give to the exercise, the more complete your mind sweep will be and the greater relief you will feel in the end. And it may happen that there's stuff that has your attention but you can't remember it then. In that case, go ahead and access the trigger list that is provided by the David Allen Company. Run your eyes through this trigger list and you will be reminded of stuff that you have your attention on, and when you're reminded of it, go ahead and write it down. By doing that, you will have a nice big complete list of everything that you have your attention on. Of course, that begs the question that what will you do now with this list that you've created? That brings us to our next step, clarify, which I will cover in my next video. Till then, now whenever you're in a meeting and you're reminded of something to do that you can't move forward on then and there, go ahead, take 5 seconds, make sure that you write that down into a place that you trust and which you will get to clear, which you will get to zero sooner rather than later, and you will never forget anything that you've told yourself to do. And you'll never be bothered by that thought ever again. I hope to see you in my next video where we will discuss the next step of GTD, which is clarify. Till then, take care. Goodbye.